Taa'poh'to'p, good day. I would like to welcome everyone to this virtual edition of Campfire Chats. Campfire Chats is an annual event presented by the University of Calgary to honor National Indigenous Peoples Day, which takes place today, June 21st. This event would not be possible without a wonderful team. I would like to thank Samantha Lodge, Melissa McKay, Sheila Weichelin, Michelle Harris, Lynn Matoska, and Shauna Cunningham. I'm Elissa Twoyoungmen, your moderator for this year's Campfire Chats. I am from the Stoney Nakoda Wesley Nation and work as the Indigenous Cultural Education and Protocol Specialist with the Indigenous Strategy at the University of Calgary. I'm happy to be joined by Dr. Michael Hart, Vice-Provost of Indigenous Engagement at the University, and for our four esteemed panelists, Lee Crowchild, Dr. Reg Croshu, Rose Croshu, and Rod Hunter. In following the protocols of the territory, we would like to gift you these items in recognition of your time and knowledge being shared today. And thank you to all of you for joining us virtually. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which includes the Tsuut'ina, the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising of the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, as well as the Stoney Nakoda, including the Bearspaw, Chiniki, and Wesley First Nations. The City of Calgary is also home to Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. I am humbled and grateful to live, work, and learn on this land that we call home. I would now like to introduce Rod Hunter and welcome him to lead us in an opening prayer and smudge. Elder Rod Hunter is part of the leadership for the Bearspaw First Nation of the Stoney Nakoda. He co-founded the popular drum group Iarhe Nakoda with his son Anders in 1994 and still leads the family drum group today. Rod Hunter has gifted the university with a song called the University of Calgary Honor Song, which he will sing for us later in the program. Rod is a Sundance maker, a medicine holder, and a residential school survivor. Welcome, Rod.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be asked to say the opening prayer for this event as I'm praying our helper will smudge everybody else. Aktiabi wa sigino waka isni singin gabawa namba duka hoya kiabit. Nei nabinana data pingi tiabikte hingi tiabiti nangan gismoad. Hayo nichitihan hayo kiluni he. Tibi chagya dauskamen hayo lohoda hayo in tiabikes. Ades is in Chahnowo. Hayo jinkta dauskamen sabuan. Ushin chaginabi hayo data. Wastita ke hayo naihum michin nangan gismoan ade. Ushingi namgin gabit. Hayo nebine data hayo. Hayo Tsuut'ina data hayo kihnustam chawan who's been chakiti abijan. Hayo nangung sisingibi. Ingibi hayo yiskabi ingitsamne. Dagas hayo then inkasengabuan. Se utisingiti hamade wasna chichaham tasingitsamne. Hayo utisingiti hamne wada hinlingene. Hayo tasam ingiabichin gangisaman adeu shingidam coaching technique hayo. I'll sing a prayer song. nimbi wachingeno yo, nimbi wachingeno yo, nimbi wachingeno, aheye, aheyo, wakatanga, nimbi wachingeno yo, wakatanga, nimbi wachingeno, aheye, aheyo. That song says, Creator, help me live. I want to live and bless everybody in our land.
Isnis, thank you for starting us off in a good way. The guiding principle of the strategy, in a good way, is an Indigenous concept that demonstrates working with clear purpose, integrity, moral strength, and communal spirit. taa'poh'to'p, UCalgary's Indigenous strategy, has been guiding our institution to indigenize teaching, learning, and research since 2017. The strategy is guided by the leadership of Dr. Michael Hart, Vice-Provost, Indigenous Engagement. Campfire Chats align with the Indigenous strategy through ways of being and ways of connecting through community engagement, relationships, and inclusivity of Indigenous peoples' knowledges. Campfire Chats is just one of many events that are presented throughout the year to unpack the complexities of colonialism and to shed a spotlight on Indigenous thinkers and leaders. It is vital to hear Indigenous and ally voices and to make space for Indigenous ways of knowing, doing, connecting, and being across our campus and beyond. This year's Campfire Chats is focused on Indigenous stories and symbols related to the taa'poh'to'p, Buffalo Robe, and winter count. Today's program will feature Indigenous leaders from across Treaty 7 territory sharing their knowledge and wisdom on this topic. Open, interactive dialogue is what Campfire Chats is all about. So after we hear from our panelists, we'll open the conversation to a live audience Q&A with them. If you have a question during the webinar, please use the Q&A feature on the bottom of your screen. As questions come in, we will work behind the scenes to feed them to our speakers during the Q&A. Before we begin hearing from our panelists, I'd like to welcome Dr. Michael Hart, Vice Provost, Indigenous Engagement, to share a few words.
Darasnastada abawistits. Danse, Michael Hart natis nagasun, whichikwisipi niwigan. I'm truly thankful for this day. It's a wonderful day in which I get to share with these amazing people. I'm grateful for the chance to hear about the Buffalo Robe, to hear about winter counts, to hear the teachings of the nations of the region. I'm from Fisher River Cree Nation, which is from away. I'm grateful that I get to be here with these esteemed elders, with the amazing team that are helping us put on this event. I have the pleasure of introducing our panelists, and I've got to know them over the past 3 years that I've been in this role. I'm grateful for the guidance and the oversight that I receive from the many elders which provide us support and direction. I have to emphasize or highly acknowledge Elder Reg Croshu and Elder Rose Croshu. I could say with a full heart that I'm a better person from being able to share life with them in the past 3 years. I'm grateful for the other elders who are here also. Rod Hunter, who's provided me direction and about song, who's provided me guidance about the Stoney Nakoda ways and who's welcomed me. I'm grateful for his kindness and his openness. And to my friend, Lee Crowchild. Lee has welcomed me right from the beginning, since we first met 3 years ago. And I'm grateful for his kindness and his openness in welcoming me. At no point have I ever felt that I was not here in a way that wasn't welcome. I've only been supported from the nations, from the people here, and I'm grateful for how they lead us in this way. I'm grateful for the teachings that they share and the guidance that they share through such things as a winter count. I'm eager to hear about what they have to offer. I have the pleasure of introducing our first panelist, Lee Crowchild from Tsuut'ina First Nation. Lee is the third generation Hakidji. My apologies, Lee. Following in the footsteps of his father and his grandfather, whom Crowchild Trail is named after. Lee holds a bachelor's degree from Washington State University and has served his community in many roles, most recently as the former chief of Tsuut'ina Nation. Lee has also contributed to a wide range of organizations outside of his nation, including serving as a board member for APTN and the chairman of Making Treaty 7 Cultural Society Board of Directors. In association with the University of Calgary, Lee was one of the cultural advisors to the design and construction of Spopie House for the 2011 Solar Decathlon competition, and created the winter count drawings for the Spopie House, telling the story of how the home came into being and journeyed to Washington and back. Lee also offered insight and expertise on the adoption of a cultural model for the Indigenous strategy designed by Reg Croshu. Welcome, Lee.
Tatanana stara. Size hakije chatinete kazeata. Hello and welcome to this webinar. In English, my name is Lee Crowchild, former sitting chief of Tsuut'ina. My real traditional name is Wakia'tu'ta, which translates to mean Red Thunder. I'm very honored to be with the people here and speaking about maybe a little bit of knowledge that I can impart on everybody here. In my experience in being in education and pursuing a high academic degree, it was always about talking about what is our truth. Most of it was steeped in oral tradition, but I was raised in a very cultural way where our lived experience was being on the land, being in ceremonies, sharing our knowledge between our nations. Us in Canada, we all know the story about the nations. We know about the residential schools, we know all of those things. And despite all of that, it has always been First Nations across Canada that have always cared for Canada no matter what. We may have been wronged in the past and in the future, but we still care about Canada and we hold this country together. That is part of our truth as I'm talking here. And part of that is our Indigenous knowledge and our Indigenous truth become symbols. As Dr. Reg Croshu will talk about the symbols on the Buffalo Robe that he put together. That is our truth. That is our discourse that's being told throughout the generations, and it's being told in a format that people can see, begin to ask questions about, and maybe in time begin to understand what those symbols actually mean. People are connectors. You, me, everybody else, we're all connectors to a way of life that was based on our relation to the land, our relation to water, our relation to air. All of these things that make what it means to become a human being. A long journey for sure, but somewhere where we all need to get to. To actually paint a buffalo robe, and I have to say this in all honesty, you have to be given the rights to do that. There's the arts community that will take a little bit of knowledge and say, I'm going to apply this to meet my agenda. And if they want to do that, they want to do that. But in our traditional ways, you have to be given the right to do that. When you become a painter of a teepee or anything like that, in the real traditional Piikani ways, is that you would take a stick, you would dip it in the paint, and then you would touch the teepee. And then you touch them 4 times, and in that you tell a story. And then you add your songs that are attached to that. And those rights are transferred to you because you have an understanding of the origins of story. You've listened to your elders. You've listened to the voices of your community and your hopes for the future. All of these things come together. Here, they've talked about ways of knowing. They've talked about ways of doing, ways of connecting, and ways of being. So this all becomes a shared knowledge, a shared story. And this is important. I can relate this experience because I tried to do this when I went to university in British Columbia. Tried to do the same thing. In the academia, it wouldn't be accepted. Oh well. But I came away with it with a little bit more knowledge of how important it is for the next generations to know the truth of what our history is. That's based on the oral tradition, your connection to land, to ceremony. And then that brings your connection to your family and to the people. Like I said before, in these traditions, we're always caring about the other people. We're caring about what Canadians are because we take care of ourselves. The voice of us is getting louder and louder. It comes from the buffalo. It comes from the horses. It comes from all the beings that are telling us this is where we need you to go. At the beginning here, we had a moment of silence for 215. Well, when I was there, those 215 were saying, here's the sunlight. This is our love for you. We're giving you this love. And this rain that I just brought, that's our tears helping to wash away those lumps that are in your throat. And this wind, this is our voices saying, we've been here all along. We know, we want you to tell our story now. Be sad, of course, because we miss looking at our nephews and our grandsons and our nieces and all that. We miss that chance. But here's our story. Take it and make it better so it doesn't happen again. That's for another Buffalo Robe, though. So I'd like to thank you for taking time here to listen to me. It's my honor to be with my brother Rod to my left, Dr. Reg Croshu to my right, and I think that's about all I'm going to say right now, or else I could go on for a long, long time. See us, Gus. Thank you very much.
Isnews. Thank you, Lee. We're so grateful that Lee could be part of Campfire Chats in this special way. Thank you, Michael, for sharing your special remarks. Our next 2 speakers are Reg and Rose Croshu, both members of the Piikani Nation. Reg is a well-respected community leader, ceremonial elder, spiritual advisor, and former chief of the Piikani Nation. He has a long-standing relationship with UCalgary and has generously shared and offered his guidance, ceremonial leadership, and traditional knowledge to students, staff, faculty, and senior leadership for many years, including the development of a taa'poh'to'p, our Indigenous strategy. His wife, Rose Croshu, was born and raised on the Piikani Nation in southern Alberta and fills a variety of roles: wife, mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother. Rose learned her traditional teachings from her great-grandmother, grandmother, mother, aunts, and other relatives, including traditional adoptive parents who were part of the traditional societies in Piikani. Rose has been involved with UCalgary for over 30 years. Reg and Rose will be speaking on the taa'poh'to'p cultural gifts and Buffalo Robe, and they will welcome Rod Hunter to sing the University of Calgary honor song. Welcome, Reg and Rose, and thank you for joining us.
I just want to welcome everybody to this presentation today. And I just want to also encourage you to get involved if there's any questions you might have later on. But at this time, I just want to say that in our way, we're a verbal society, and we follow our Indigenous oral systems and practices. So we didn't have writing, but what was important are songs. So the university gave out degrees, but the elders talked about honoring the students, not only with a piece of paper, but an acknowledgement through our songs. The songs are physical representation of things that you've been tested and validated on to move on in life, and you carry the song with you. Today I'd like to introduce Rod Hunter Rod gifted the university with a song, and I just want to have Rod sing the song and maybe talk a bit about the song that he gifted to the university. So I'll turn it over to my friend Rod.
This song came to me in a dream many, many years ago, 1979, 78. My memory is a little bit difficult because of being hit in the head in residential school. And I have a hard time remembering songs from back then. And for some reason, this song just came into my head when we were introducing Dr. Hart to the university. We're doing a special honoring there, and I felt compelled to give the university the song. I felt really good. I mean, I've never felt that kind of goodness since my kids were born. But I was so happy to give that song to the university because to honor somebody in our culture is to compose a song for them, whether it be a word song or a straight song. This song was made in the style of my brothers from the Little Pine. They sing that type of smooth song. So I made it back in '79, I think it was, in White Swan, sitting around the drum. Oh, I'm lying. I was in the washroom when I made that song. I shouldn't say that, but that's the truth. It's a good song for that I give to them. And to honor somebody, you add words. You add words, but then, I felt like I cannot add any words to this song because it's such a beautiful melody. Medley, I think it's called. Such a smooth sounding song. And I gave it to the university. I mean, I felt so good. There's so many things I can say about it. And, but like Reg was saying, you have to have the right to do stuff like that. And my dad, George Heaven Fire, he was given the honor to make songs, to make headdress, to make feather hats, to paint teepees. Then he passed me the honor to sing and dance. He taught me the eagle dance when I was a boy. Yesterday I was thinking about him, Father's Day, and my heart sank, but I was so happy when my grandkids came up to me and said, "Happy Father's Day, Grandpa." And they all hugged me. Made me feel so good. I wanted to sing. So we sat in a circle and we sang, me and my grandkids. We sang this honor song. Because I was thinking of my friends at the university. I was thinking I better not forget it at the wrong time. Because of my memory. I'm hit in the head so many times. But thank you for inviting me here to sing and say a few words. There's lots of stories that build up to the song, but maybe I'll write a book about it. Thank you very much.
I just want to say thank you to Rod Hunter for the song. I'm so grateful, and during convocation at the university, when we hear the song, and the Indigenous people that are convocated have commented to me many times when they hear the song, they feel welcome and they feel a part of the university. That's what makes me so thankful to have this song with the university. I just want to say also that I'm going to talk about the rug later. The Buffalo, we call it a winter count. And I'll be talking about the winter count in a bit. So I'll turn it back to Elissa.
Thank you for sharing your wisdom and knowledge with us, Reg and Rose. And a special thank you to Rod for gracing us with the live performance of the honor song. Before we move into the Q&A session of the event, I'd like to welcome back Dr. Hart to share his reflective thoughts on the significance of having the taa'poh'to'p Buffalo Robe gifted to UCalgary.
I'm grateful that we are having the chance to hear from Reg and Rose regarding the Buffalo Robe. They'll speak shortly on it. I'm grateful that we're being honored with such an amazing gift. It is reflective of so much effort that's been put forward in the past 3 years plus I say plus because there's much effort that was gone into the development of the strategy prior to its launch in November of 2017. We're in the 4th year of the strategy, and so much has happened during this time. I can only imagine that it would be difficult to determine what would be highlighted in terms of the Buffalo Robe. So I'm honored that Reg has taken significant time, given much reflection, much support from Rose and his other loved ones in determining how best to present our years in the development of the strategy. I'm grateful that during these years of the strategy that many people have stepped forward, such as Rod in gifting us the song. Thank you again, Rod, for your kindness in sharing the song and singing for us today. Many other elders have been working with us at the university. Many knowledge keepers have been working with us at the university, providing their guidance and understanding. So I'm grateful to yourself, Lee, and the many times that you have stepped forward and worked with us at the university. I appreciate the team that's been supporting the strategy and moving forward. There's been many people, not just of our team, but throughout the university, have made a commitment to creating change. And I can only imagine many more people joining us. I'm looking forward to hearing from Reg and Rose about the Buffalo Robe, about the symbols of the Buffalo Robe, and the explanation of the stories of the taa'poh'to'p for these past few years. So with that, I'd like to pass it to Reg and Rose to share about the Buffalo Robe.
Hey, I just want to say my name is Reg Crowshu. Awakasina is my name from the Piikani First Nation, and we are from the Piikani First Nation. Maybe I'll pass it to Rose to introduce herself.
Hoki nikso okua, nidani ko akoi ni maki, nidumfto me Piikani. Hello everyone, my relatives. My name is Rose Croshu and I'm from the Piikani Nation. Pleased to see all of you.
Okay. In historically, we used to, our people told their stories. And stories must be wrong word today because we look at our stories, there are our facts, they are our experiences, they are our sciences, they are our politics, they were our education. Those were actual experiences that we shared together. So those experiences were shared through what we call today in English language winter count. When you're asking for the years maybe of an elder, how many years, how old he is, he might say, I'm this many winters. So when we talk about the number of winters, this Buffalo Robe with a winter count goes probably the last 5-6 years since we started the Indigenous strategy. The strategy, taa'poh'to'p, is a strategy that tells a story of how the university was able to start working with the elders to put an Indigenous strategy the right way. So when we look at the robe on the screen here, you see, first of all the red dots going around, and in certain points you have the University of Calgary symbol in red and black circle. That red dots represents our young people's journey through lives. As they journey through lives, they go to a place in our journeys to stop and rest. Taa'poh'to'p, you stop and rest. And that's what the strategy is called, taa'poh'to'p. And the red marks is their journey, and these marks here with the U of C is the university where they stop and rest. As we tell the story of the taa'poh'to'p, the first symbol is one right in the center, in the middle. That was the days when the buffalo was our education. The buffalo gave his life, and we used the whole buffalo for our way of life. We, to one circle there, we have a circle with the Little Bird Society and Siksik Society that we taught our young people through those circles from our elders and our knowledge and the sign or the symbols of the little birds that we taught our people through our oral education system about our ways of life and creation. And the man or the lead teacher there has got a stick that they use for making smudge to start every session. He's a leader, that's why he has the feather. When the elders decided to help the university do the strategy, they shared a pipe. And it was through the staff at the university, the leadership at the University of Calgary, that had the courage to come out and talk to the elders, especially after the TRC, Truth and Reconciliation Commission, that happened in Canada. When they looked at their responsibilities, they came out and shared a pipe with the elders. The elders gave a gift. The first mark on there is black water. Black water gave the name to the university. It's this red circle is the name, but the person is identified with the black water above. And he was the old-timer that was part of the beginning of the strategy. We have the Métis that came in on those meetings with the elders, with their Métis elders. The teepee was also a transfer to the university so that they can have a place, a venue for learning. And most importantly, that a bundle on a tripod is the vision and mission of the strategy. And Rod Hunter was the one that gave a gift of the song. You just heard the song that he talked about. That was a gift. And then the symbol of the buffalo was given by Misamem Munisaki. So those were all the gifts that were given to the university. The next symbol was the elders that first got together. Blackwater was the leader at the time, and the leader for the university was a lady. Her name was Nipu Makin Skaki, the name that was given to her, Chickadee Song Woman. And then the elders that came in the circle and how they're all represented from the different First Nations, the Cree, the Stoney, Tsuut'ina, Blackfoot, and non-native people, and the Métis people that were a part of that first committee that got together. The first report that came out of the strategy, the first annual report, was called Together in a Good Way. So when we look at Together in a Good Way, this is where the writing and the vision and hearing on the Indigenous side. The Indigenous side is the triangle with a circle. That was our leaders that met with the university, and the university was represented by writing. The X on the paper was our ancestors' first experience of writing. Now it's a part of education. So together, in a good way was their first decisions in those meetings. As they went together in a good way, the one with the ark on there, of course the University of Calgary has that big red ark, but they took on the bundle, which is the goals and objectives that was put in writing, which is represented by the X, and the parfleche that the elders put together as a bundle to represent those visions and missions were put together. And then there was a lady, her name is Jackie Ottman, where their symbol of how we make the symbol for the Cree. She was a lady that was part of the beginning. And then there was a leader, his name was Jackie Seabird, and his Indian name is Seabird. The seabird mark above him was his name, Jackie Seabird. Those were individuals involved in putting together the first part. The next part of the next year's annual report was called Walking in Parallel Paths, where our leaders came to meet the university, and they discussed working together in parallel paths. We didn't want to be imposed on by a written system anymore, but they recognized through meeting with the elders that they need to work in parallel paths between the written system and the oral system. And the report started us out in that path for that year. The path after that, the individuals changed in the staff. So the one with the black wolf on top, that's the name of our present leader in the strategy, Dr. Michael Hart. His name from his Cree territory in Manitoba is Black Wolf, so that represents his name on top. And in our way, we mark the Cree with that shape on a triangle. And of course, he's holding the fork stick that we use to make smudge with, which all leaders hold. The next mark is the lady that helped Michael Hart, or Black Wolf. Her name is Crow Spirit Woman. May Stuipik Saki, the shadow on the ground at her foot is the spirit of the crow, and the flying crow on top. That's how we mark the women, females. And the other helper, her name is Istakan, somebody that helps the elders when they need work. The one carrying the bag is the helper that are helping the old people. So Carol is one of our helpers helps us in the administration. That's her name. So those are the staff that we work with. The next report we looked at was Towards Transformation. The transformation took when our leaders fought against schooling, and this is where the residential school came into place, and the elders just didn't agree with the education. So Here we have a building with writing on it that represents the school by those X's. That's the reading and writing. The elders didn't agree with it and didn't want to send their children, so there was conflict. And on the bottom with the yellow symbol was the non-native people. When they did away our buffalo, which was our education, our way of life, our songs, our language, when those were being attacked by the newcomers. And that was the turmoil and conflict we lived in. But the university with the elders talked about moving ahead towards transformation. And that was the path that brought us out to where we're looking at today, where the elders with their songs, their language, their way of life are working with the educators, the professors, the staff, and the leadership at the university. They're working together to travel that parallel path rather than not breaking the trail, but following that parallel path. So each year we mark something that was significant. And in our staff at the university, we had a person that was significant, that helped the strategy. And his name is David Lazarman. David was a person that embraced the strategy and worked with many elders and sat with them about all his life. Elders from the coast all the way to eastern Canada, and amongst the Treaty 7 elders. I know he sang with Rod, and he was a singer. So David, in this year marks the David, when the bear took David's life. So David went on to spirit world this year by a bear that took his life. So this is the event that marked this year was the strategy. This symbol talks about, in our ways, the concept of ways of being. The leader holds a smudge, a pipe, and what he has on his head are knowledge. These are transfers of certain rights as leaders, whether there's societies for the little birds or the different animal societies that give us those societies to learn. He represents knowing the knowledge as a teacher, and the pipe to work with the university, and the stick to make smudge with. Those are leaderships that come to work with the university. So that is our understanding when we talk about ways of being. Those are transfers. That's our ways of being. The next symbol is talking about make it relatives. This is where we work with, or this is ways of being. Sorry about that. I better put my glasses on here. I'm seeing double. Okay, now we can see. Sorry, the last symbol we looked at, this symbol, was the symbol of ways of doing, how we follow our practices of using the pipe and the fork stick for smudge, and the knowledge that were transferred to us, how we share it with the students, but also work with the teachers, the professors, the staff at the university, with the elders, in working together in parallel. The next symbol is ways of being. When we talk about ways of being, we need all the resource people. And that's the concept of understanding relationships and building relationships. So whether it's our elders, male or female, or it's our young people that are coming to the university to learn, they're working with the staff, they're working with the professors and teachers, they're working with the students, all working together so that we can support our Indigenous people feel at home at the University of Calgary. The circle of the sun is always representing knowledge, our knowledge that we have to be responsible to and transparent to is natural law. And natural laws are important that we have to be responsible to. But we also have to be responsible to the power and jurisdiction, which is creation. So the sun represents creation and natural laws that we get our knowledge from to share with our young people. This symbol talks about ways of connecting. So at the university, we're looking at a place of connection. When I talk about the symbol that was given in the winter count to the University of Vision and Goals and Objectives, we have many bundles in our societies that represent many goals and objectives in our Indigenous way of life. And it's the knowledge of all those bundles and their people that know the knowledge, but also know the knowledge coming from Creator to the ground, which is the dark mark on the bottom, that connects us to that knowledge. And when we talk about ways of connecting, those are how we parallel connecting to the university. Those four symbols represents the conceptual symbols that we use in the university Indigenous strategy, and that's how the elders interpret those four symbols. When we put the strategy together, they talked about ways of knowing, ways of being, ways of connecting, ways of doing, and ways of being. So those concepts were used in every step of the way to look at how we build a strategy to transform. And of course, I was talking about the journey. This is the university, the resting space, taa'poh'to'p at the university, when throughout the journey of our students and learning when they come to the University of Calgary, but also the leadership and the staff that come to help make that a resting space for and learning for our young people in their journeys in life. So with that, those were the symbols that we put together for the Buffalo, and that's how we put together our winter count. So this winter count represents 3 annual reports, and the elders talked about a 5-year period. So the 4th and 5th annual report haven't been added to the winter count Buffalo Robe, and as they go through those years, they'll be adding those winter counts. So our winter count is how we would give representation to our Indigenous people, telling the story of the Indigenous strategy at the University of Calgary. Han.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Reg and Rose. So I'll now open things up to the audience, as I'm sure there are plenty of questions. So we have a question here from Kathy Brown. She says that we're a class of grade 11-12 complex needs students. She wants to thank you all for sharing your stories and symbols. And she asked if you were able to share a bit more of what was meant about the black water.
What was meant by the black water was the old man that came, his English name is Andy Blackwater. So when he came to lead the elders in coming together to start supporting the university with the Indigenous strategy, his name Blackwater was significant amongst the elders that started together as a group. So he was a leader, and Blackwater was his name. Now, I presume from his community, his people of Ghana, there is a story to Blackwater, but they would know what the story is. I just know him by his name, and that's why the marking of Blackwater was given.
Thank you, Reg. So we have a question from Evan. He is a grade 7 student, and he's curious as to why the blankets are on everyone's legs.
Hey, if you look at on the symbols, when we talk about ways of being, there's a tripod with a bundle on it. Those are our visions. That's what we're gonna do. So when we have our visions, we wrap those visions up in a bundle, and the person that are responsible to keep that vision going, the person themselves are respected like the bundle, and they're given the blanket and the shawls to wrap themselves like the bundle so that they can keep the vision and mission and what they want to do with the strategy going. So not only is the bundle wrapped up in a blanket, we are wrapped up in blankets because we work with the bundle.
Thank you. So this question is for Rod. Does the honor song have specific words and tell a story, or does it represent an idea? It's very melodic, and that's from Janice.
The song has no specific words, no. It's more of a chanting song. It represents to encourage the university students or any student to continue. Once you've achieved that goal of graduating the different levels of education, and then you go to university and graduate from Calgary, that song will take you to the next step, will bless you before you go to the next step. That's why Reg was saying the people who hear it feel good, because it is a spiritual song. I had a dream. This old man was singing, "I am the singer," he said, "of all songs." And he was singing this song, talking in the same melody, saying, "I adopt that song, and I bless that song for the university." That's why, I feel good every time I sing it. It's a blessing for all the students and all the people that hear it.
Thank you. So this question is from Michael, and he says, "Okay, thank you for the opportunity to join you here today." He's curious as to how You might see the Indigenous strategy at the UC aligning with some of the new mandates from the provincial government related to funding and outcomes. Has any outreach taken place to draw upon this amazing work?
So the strategy speaks about a parallel process, a parallel path of us walking together, us being Indigenous peoples and the university. It also speaks about the commitment to transformation, meaning that we're going to change how things have been, as demonstrated in one of the symbols that Reg has put forward. It's also committed to renewal, that this is a journey, meaning that we're going to be on this for much time to come. And we recognize that while the strategy provides us some guidance in these years, the current years, we also know that we would have to come back and revisit and renew it, and to go forward with an understanding of the people, of the experiences, of the knowledge developed up to that point, and go forward to build upon it. So these central concepts of transformation, of renewal, parallel path, including the idea of shared space, the idea that we're going to walk in a way that's respectful of one another, in a way that where people are maintaining their own sense of identity, their own values, their own ways of going forward, that we will respect that of one another. So in the shared space, we will transform, create change, and we'll continue to walk together. I think these are models for others, including the various levels of governments, to be considering that in our work, if we're truly going to create change as is being expected in these days and these times, if we're truly going to create change, then it has to be in a parallel process where Indigenous peoples are walking with others who are now sharing these lands, sharing these territories with us. That it has to be a contribution where we're all giving and receiving and helping one another to move forward in a positive way. So as such, I see the strategy as a model for many other people to follow, including various governments, organizations, and others.
All right, so next question from Margaret. What is the process that is used to decide what event will represent a given year on the robe?
So in the work that we've developed to understand, to determine what's going to be focused on in a given year, that's usually done by all the people involved. It includes discussions with the elders, Reg, Rose, the other elders who are part of our advisory circle. They provide us guidance in terms of what's happening throughout the year. In terms of what's on the robe, I have to pass that to Reg, and as he's the one who carries that gift and that process for recording the events on the robe. So I'll pass that to Reg.
Hey. When we each year when we do the annual report, the university Indigenous strategy makes their annual report to the university, but through that report there is a story in that report. The elders listen to the story of that year, and then from that story they put together a title, and I present them as symbols, or many symbols, that they would look through and pick which symbol reflects that year. So we have those discussions with the elders about the symbols and how which symbols they're going to use and what they're representing. So it is working with the story that's coming together, not only in our language, our Indigenous thought, through our songs and practices, but also we need to understand the story in the written Western annual report together so that we can tell the story. So each symbol comes with a report. So the symbol is on the Buffalo Robe, but there's also a written symbol that goes with the university. And that's why one of the symbols talks about traveling in parallel paths.
Wow.
Thank you. So we have a question from Lorna. So she wants to know how she can be more supportive of reconciliation and other cultural sensitivities to help assist and support her children and grandchildren. That's for everybody.
Maybe I can just say we've had many years of struggle and conflict because one system imposed on the other. The written default system imposed on our oral systems. And that happened since the signing of treaties. So that imposing caused many years of conflict, many years of confusion, many years of misunderstanding. Now, we're talking about after reconciliation, Canadians have a responsibility. Indigenous and non-Indigenous have a responsibility to understand reconciliation and use it. So we're still asking the question of reconciliation, but as we work to the answers, we need to look at understanding relations. What are relations? In our culture, we know what relations are. And then from there, moving to the concept of building relatives so that you can work together to take on these challenges. So as you look at relationships and building relatives, those relationships that we understand, in Western parallels, I would look at them in the concept of allyship and allies that work together so that they can achieve goals. So in allyship with all Canadians and young people and elders and parents, I think it's our responsibility to work through that allyship to understand relationship building and making relatives. Han.
Thank you.
I'd like to add a piece, if I may, Reg. And the piece that I would add is in Cree, taa'poh'to'p, truth. And the importance of truthing. Truth is a verb, as an action, as something that we do. And so a key piece to move into this allyship, this key piece in developing relationship, is understanding the truths. Understanding the truths is from all the people that are present. When we talk about parallel paths, then we have to come to understand that Indigenous peoples have a truth, that it's tied to our histories, to our experiences. And as Reg says, there's been some challenges, but we also have truths about how we see things in moving forward. And as we enact the things that we've envisioned, as we enact the beliefs and our gifts, our truths come out. And so I think a key piece is making sure we support one another so those truths will come forward. So a key piece is truth.
Thank you.
I'll add to that too. Thank you, Reg, for the words you say. And I have to be reminded about walking in parallel. You know, as we move forward, talk about reconciliation. Well, we do have to talk about truth as well. And I've always been a proponent of that. You know, well, what is the truth of everything that's happened? Well, one side was based in racism, and I'll call it that way. It's based on racism. But the other side is based in prejudice. You know, we have to handle, on my community side, we have to handle our ideas of being prejudiced. Because of things that were imposed by us, we become prejudiced. On the non-native side, it was all based on racism. We're doing this because the colonial attitude is we want to take over your land and two different things. You meet, you talk about it, and you come to the truth. Either we find a way to work together, or we continue the fight outside.
Yeah.
You know, and think that we're at that point right now. This gift of this pandemic, the gift of the 215, they're forcing us to come out and face our truths. You know, it's very painful, and it will be for a while yet. We don't want to brush it under the carpet because it's exposed. The truth is, those 215 says, what are you going to do for us now? You know, there are some that say, well, we should protest Canada today. And I had this discussion yesterday, and I said, well, let's think of it this way. Canada Day is for the next generation, those young children that are all over. You know, maybe they recognize those other 215 that were children. You know, because I know my grandson is saying, you know, why did they do that? You know, Issa, you know that they shouldn't be doing that. Well, there's the honesty of youth saying, this is not right. You know. But we say, well, why don't you? And I told him, well, why don't you celebrate with everybody else that's your age? And if those 215 were at your age too, welcome into it and say, this is how we're going to move forward. Because we have to deal with our prejudice, we have to deal with our racism.
Thank you.
I have to add. I'll add to that comment. I think by having these campfire chats, we begin to understand about Indigenous and about the Western. How are we both going to work in this country? Even in our Indigenous ways, we have no word for racism. We don't treat people differently. We work with them because we work with the environment and everything. And when we teach our children, we tell them to get along with everybody. So by having this strategy that the University of Calgary started, that's another venue because we're changing the mindsets of us. We have scientists and all that, and we're just as capable as the Westerners. In fact, that's where the parallel, you got to understand the other one. We've tried to understand the Western, but it gets us into trouble. So we go back to our ways, and now we're sharing our Indian ways of thought, mind, and how to get along with each other. And I think that's what I teach my grandchildren and my great-grandson, the same thing, those teachings that I was taught when I was a young child, how I had to be able to have that respect for everybody, even the environment, because if you don't have it, you're kind of lost in some other world that you don't know where you belong. But I think with this that the U of C is doing is a real thing to look at, and for your children in the future to get along with everybody. I'll end it there. Thank you.
Thank you. So this question is for Michael. Are you able to explain the significance of all the cultural gifts received thus far and how that connects to the parallel path?
Wow, I think some of this may be best from the people who gifted it, but I'll share the little bit of how the gifts have influenced me, influenced our team, and influenced the institution, the university. So in regards, first is the name, taa'poh'to'p, a place to rest and rejuvenate. And we recognized that the university is a place where individuals are going to add to the gifts, develop their gifts. They're going to grow. They're going to develop in new ways. And that we have to honor that time when people come to be here. And so the strategy reminds us that we're trying to honor the students that come, the others that come, the staff, the faculty members that come to be at the university. The university is a very busy place, but we can't lose sight that we're here to grow and develop. So the name in of itself, taa'poh'to'p, reminds us, stop, reflect, develop, grow, so we can prepare for the next steps. Other gifts, such as the song that Rod has so generously shared with us today and helps us move forward, it's used, for example, during our convocation. It reminds us about this work about walking parallel, walking together. So whenever I hear the song, it touches my heart. So it's almost like on that feeling sense, on that heart sense about our commitment. It gives me that joy to keep moving forward, recognizing that there's a place for us. There's a place for all the students, the Indigenous students, and place for all students, and that we share this so that we could come together from the heart. So the song to me reminds me to keep moving forward in a way that's going to help us all move forward, to celebrate all of us, to honor all of us. The teepees that have been shared reminds me of that we all have a place here, that we all have a physical spot where we're set up, where we could be at home. And so these teepees that have been gifted to us and the symbols that are reflected on them reminds us that this place is also home for Indigenous peoples. This place is also where we could come and be welcome, a place where we can rest, we can settle, we could grow, we could feel safe, we could be with people who care and are concerned for us, and that we could offer our care and concern for others. So the teepees remind me of that. The symbols on the teepees that have been gifted to us reminds me about that it's in all aspects of what we're doing at the university, in the ways that we're doing. So whether how we're teaching, the things that we're teaching, how we're interacting as members within the university, the ways of knowing, the things that's being included, how Indigenous knowledge is being included within our curriculum. We keep growing and developing on that. We have more and more people stepping forward, recognizing the importance of including Indigenous knowledge and making room for that. How we connect with one another, the symbols speak about that. Our relationships with one another, the relationships to the land. It's influenced the development of our landscape plan, the elders' guidance on our main campus landscape plan. All of these things that are the ways of being, our values, our policies, and how they come through. I'm reminded whenever I think of the teepees, think of the symbols, that this is our home, this is where we're going to create change. And the symbols and the teepees that have been gifted to us teach me and remind me about that as well. So these are a few examples about how the symbols, or the gifts, I should say, how the gifts have impacted us at the university, many people within the university. So.
Thank you. So this question is for Lee. Can you talk a little bit more about how you developed the winter count to tell the story of the Spopey house? Sorry.
Wow, what was that, 2011?
Yeah.
Oh, that's 10 years ago. My memory only goes back to this morning. I think, again, it's what Reg actually put in here, of how we work in parallel. At that point, it was about a very energy efficient house. It was looking at developing new technologies for housing. And it was taking context of our beliefs, our traditional beliefs, you want. So I took all of those into account. The words of everybody that was part of that team, our committee members and that. I learned a lot from Reg. Reg reminded me of what some of the symbols were, and how it all came together in place and location. You know, where Calgary is, where we all kind of met at one point, and where the Elbow and the Bow River meet. And about how education, the symbol that represented education and represent, we say Ikahele, or the white people, how that was represented, and how we had to create this ongoing dialogue with each other. It was for the future. It was about, you know, at that time, strictly in building, it was about the building codes that we were using on all our native lands and all our reserves and that. The codes are never enough. They're poor quality. We might get some money for housing, but it becomes substandard because we have to stretch the dollar. In the end, we just kind of going more and more into a state of spinning our wheels. So the idea of this Spopey house was, this is an idea we can take. These are structurally insulated panels that we can use that are not going to have mold in our homes. We're going to use the natural things like solar, not just the panels, but just the heat itself, and we're going to use ground source heating and water and that. So it was a very forward-thinking concept as we're going forward. And as I wrote the panels in that, it was reflective of that, of how the narration of all the people was coming together. And from 10 years ago, that's about what I remember.
Thank you. So this next question asks, where will the Buffalo Robe be located, and how will we ensure that everyone knows and understands the stories that are held within the robe?
So the robe is going to be kept in our Office of Indigenous Engagement. So we have a new office, a new site set up. As soon as we could all gather again, we'll have an acknowledgement of our new site, and the robe will be kept there. It will be brought out at particular times. So during our annual report, for example, it would be making sure that we're aware of it, but also during certain events. So for example, we have once we're back gathering, we'll be continuing with our annual tea dances, time when we make announcements about things coming up, about how things have been going, and that will be an ideal time for the robe to be coming out. But I also defer to Reg to share about any other times that he may want to note for the robe to be coming out.
I know when the elders get together and have their meetings and gatherings, and like Michael said, at the tea dance, when they're going to add to the robe and have these discussions, the robe is brought out. But a lot of times it's going to be in storage, and any time we need to bring it out, we take it out in ceremony, the smudge, the song, the elders, much like what we did here today. We had the smudge, we had the song, and our discussion, and that's how the road will be handled going in. But it's that respect and that honor that we give the robe that we also understand from the written perspective that gives it the same respect and honor. And
Thank you. So we need to wrap up the Q&A. Thank you everyone for your insights. I'd like to turn it back to Dr. Michael Hart to offer some final reflective thoughts. Thanks.
I'm grateful for this time that we got to gather. This new gift that's being forwarded to us, the robe, is part of our journey, and it's going to help us to remember about what we've been through, so we don't forget the effort that people have given through the years. The robe is going to remind us about that effort, remind the commitment, remind us about our journey up to a point. And that becomes important for us because then as we move forward in the future, it'll help us see which direction we want to head, help us see which way to go. So the robe is and the symbols are going to be a key piece for us in implementing the strategy and helping us know how to keep moving forward. So with that, I thank the elders for the guidance that they provided over these years. I thank you, Reg, for the guidance that you offer to us through the robe and the gifting of the robe and the symbols. And I thank you for everybody coming to join us and recognizing the significant time of us walking in a parallel way and the robe demonstrating our efforts.
Thank you. So I'd like to turn it back over to Rod Hunter, who will share a closing prayer to help end our event in a good way.
Great. Just like to say something before we end. These people talking about walking in a parallel way. We share not only with the non-Indigenous, but we share with each other. Someplace there, the Indigenous people should be walking in a parallel too, should be sharing the information with the young generation, with the old people. Every time I go near Reg Crowshoe, I learn something. I learned something here today. So now, and then it brought back walking in parallel again. All of these, one more thing I'd like to say is all of these things here, these symbols, and the way we pray, the way we bring our pipes out, when we bring our drums to pray, that's how the spirits chose us to pray to Creator. That's all of this here. Grandfathers taught him from generation to generation, from the spirits to the generation all the way down to Reg. So it comes from the grandfathers to teach us how to pray to Creator. And it's all in there, all that parallel walking. We have a short prayer in Stoney that one time we said, let's have this Mohawk say the meal prayer at a meeting. Are you sure you want me to? Yeah. Why? Because ours is 7 hours long, he said. And then they said, give it to the Stoneys. They have a short prayer. So I said the short meal prayer. Now I'm going to say the short ending prayer so we can all walk in parallel again. I'm going to include the sleeping prayer so that tonight you don't have to say the prayer for yourself. You just go to dreamland. Tachanga wa kan, chaining gabit, oza zangi tiam, nanga hebi ingi ngabik tine. Wow siang na zon thangao yam, down the hayam sinchien, nanga hebine. It thinks so in Jesus, tazi edaha, it's in watching it. Om tagize, town teze, Jesus Christ, munta barnsize. Tachanga wa kan, wahogon takize, wahai chinize, naing itiabitien, nangas, nangu, HS. Amen.
Isnius, thank you, Rod. And thank you to everyone who participated in and attended the 6th annual Campfire Chats. As an institution, we have a long path to walk towards genuine reconciliation. Each and every one of us plays a part in this ongoing transformation. I thank all of you who joined us today for sharing space and being part of the conversation. And I encourage you to take your learnings with you and pass them on. You'll receive an email with a link to view this session on demand if you'd like to share it with anyone. Please continue to engage with UCalgary and Indigenous strategy at taa'poh'to'p by visiting ucalgary.ca/indigenous, now posted in the chat. Take care and see you next time.